long wait, isn't it? And I know that a lot of you have been quite eager to come and get back and get involved with the volunteer support programs that you all run over the last 18 months. But so thank you for your patience, and thank you for sticking with us. I'm so glad to see some of you here today. I know there's another group of people joining us this evening. It's been a tough year, hasn't it? 18 months probably now. And for everybody in all sorts of different ways. I think probably all of us have had our personal challenges along the way, whether that be family or friends or, just the difficulties of suddenly finding yourself in more of an isolated environment, or not being able to go out and do the things that make you tick and make you happy. And I think that has reflected across the whole workforce. All our volunteers in so many areas have been impacted, and so keen to come back and be back involved in doing what you do so well. So thank you, and we acknowledge that it's been tough for you guys. It's been tough at Willen. It's been tough worldwide, hasn't it? But it's been tough at Willen. We've had a lot of changes as well, looking at how we do things, what we can do, what we can't do, and hence the decision to have to put most of the services offered through Sarah's team on hold, because so many of those rely on that face-to-face contact and personal intervention with our service users. So we had to take time out. We'd already started thinking about how we could better build the service for the future needs, and this has really come on top of that. So a huge amount of uncertainty and change within our teams as well. So I think whilst you were all juggling your own things, we were kind of trying to pull things together for us here as well. I think COVID's impacted pretty much everything we do, hasn't it? And I don't think anybody would say there's not been a change in some respect to what we all do on a day-to-day basis. And that's what the team has been working really hard on now, is what are the new needs? What does the organisation need to offer to our supporters, our service users, and all those people that use support in order to deliver what's most needed now. So there's been a lot of time to take stock and review. And they've all been very busy. They've not just been sitting here wondering where you were. They have actually been very busy looking at the service needs going forward. It's been quite frustrating. I'm sure it has for you, sat at home wondering what's happening. It's frustrating for us. Things just start to move, and then they kind of have the rug's been pulled again. We've gone into another lockdown just when we think things were moving forward. So, we feel your pain, and thank you for sticking with us and being back here today to hear what comes next. And if you can read the screen, you'll see that the first thing it says is that we're continuing to navigate through this pandemic. We're not through. We can't say the line's drawn and we're all back to normal. It's still evolving, it's still changing, and we're trying to roll with that, accommodate that as well. It's quite challenging as a result, isn't it? And it's very uncertain. And I think as a hospice and in the charity sector, we've got the added uncertainty of our income streams and how our funding is going to continue, what our commissioners want. So there's a lot of things that are all being considered at a time when we're trying to work out how best to support our patients and our service users. We also anticipate that there's going to be a bigger demand. If you think about what's happened over the last 18 months, and a lot of people who perhaps traditionally would have been able to access healthcare services more easily, there are people perhaps that are going to reach our service who are more poorly, have had delays to getting access to the treatment that they deserved, and possibly going to be angry about that. So we're trying to also think about preempting some of that and the impact that might have for all of you in terms of meeting some of these patients and service users. Within our own organisation, you can imagine that there's been quite a lot of uncertainty, and staff have been working flat out over this whole period. So one of the things the slide says here is that our staff teams are in recovery, and I think it's fair to say that we're all quite exhausted. but we keep smiling, and we know where we're going forwards. But it has been quite challenging, and I think at a time when we've got such a lot to do, just acknowledging that people are still coming through that recovery is important, and has meant that perhaps at times we've just taken our foot off the pedal a little bit to give people time to breathe. You'll also discover as we go through this presentation that we've had some staff changes. 1 or 2 of our services were always short term, so some of their managers or leads have moved on. Some people have chosen to go because the services are different now. We won't be providing some of the therapeutic and wellbeing services in the way that we've done historically. Perhaps that doesn't suit everybody. So you'll see some new faces, you'll see some new names on the organisation chart. So, again, it's that uncertainty, it's that unknown and not really knowing. That creates anxiety for people, and that's what we want to do today, is try and set the scene so that you understand this is where we've been, this is why it's been difficult, and this is now where we want to gain your support in moving forward. We're all here in the well.
Now, sorry, can you speak up a little bit? It's difficult for the people in the back.
Okay, sorry. I'll try and shout.
Thank you.
So, for most of you, I suspect this is your first visit to this site, to the well. And that's been born out of a need to move from the main site at the moment. Have you all seen the work going on at the lake, up on the main site? So we're in the process of doing our legacy project, which is the build to improve the services at the hospice. And as a result, most of the therapeutic and wellbeing teams have been moved out in phases to this lovely location, but it has meant, again, quite a bit of disruption. And the team have been fragmented over that time, and again, with people working at home, working across 2 sites, it's been quite a challenge, isn't it, Sarah, to keep everybody together and moving forward in the same direction. So although that's really exciting, and what it will present for us is great opportunity for new space, new therapy rooms, new complementary space, complementary therapy space, it has given us a few curveballs along the way, I think it's fair to say. And we've all had to do everything remotely and virtually and in some sort of cloud space, which I think again has created some challenges. It's not the same as popping down the corridor and just speaking to somebody. It's all about the slightly slower way of doing things, which is through virtual connections. So it's been a slog, I think is what we're saying, but it's exciting. It's exciting. We're ready for the challenge. Okay. So, what we're here to do today and what we really want to take forward at this point is to share how we've come to a place where we think we've got a really solid foundation to build on and take forward the therapy and wellbeing services in a slightly different format to perhaps how they looked before, but in order to meet changing need, the demands of commissioners, and obviously working in this new post-pandemic, if we get to that stage, environment. So it's really about setting those standards and those building blocks. I would say though that it is the beginning of the journey. This isn't, here's the answer, here's the blueprint, we're all going to do exactly what it says. It will continue to evolve, and I think that's likely because the world is still uncertain. What we need is still uncertain, what our service users will want is still uncertain. So what we're asking you to do is come and be part of developing this service. We've got the bedrock, we know where we want to go, but those things will evolve and will change over the next few months as we start to unravel what the needs are going to be going forward. So the team have worked hard at putting together a more robust structure which now aligns with what we think we're going to go forward with. I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to, if you can see the chart, talk you through it. If not, we'll do shapes and illustrate it in another way.
As you know, Peter and I, just before COVID, we did a couple of events where we asked everybody to come in to kind of start to explain what the thoughts were about services going forward. That feels like a lifetime ago. But over the period of COVID, we started with a kind of our first draft of this organisational structure for therapeutic and wellbeing, and it's evolved, and you'll see lots of new faces behind my lovely team at the back there, and other people all across the organisation who are going to help us kind of think about how volunteers fit into this structure. So where we've got to, I won't talk about where we were in beginning of 2019. We're going to talk about where we are today. The first box here is in grey, and that's for chaplaincy. So we'd originally thought that we were going to put, we were looking at revamping what that role was about, what spiritual care looks like, and we thought that that would link with community engagement. But over the pandemic, and it's kind of changed our way of thinking about it, and we've had some really invaluable input from a very experienced chaplain. And through that experience, what we've decided to do is set up a service level agreement with Milton and partnership with Milton Keynes Hospital chaplaincy team. So that chaplain role was always kind of on its own, really, and what we really needed to do was embed it within a system so that they had supervision support, structural support for their profession. And we are in the process at the moment of recruiting Sarah Crane. I don't know if anybody knows the chaplain, Sarah at the hospital is a fabulous chaplain, and we've just gone through a selection process with them, and we're inviting the people for interviews very shortly. So the chaplaincy role will be in partnership with the Milton Keynes Hospital Chaplaincy Service, which I think is a really, really positive move. And I don't know if you're aware, and Peter might speak to this later, but commissioning structures have changed as well in the middle of COVID. So we've had to navigate, and we're still navigating through what that means for us and where we sit within what they now call BLMK, which is Bedfordshire, Luton and Milton Keynes. And commissioning are looking at bringing those regional areas together more. So there's lots of work going on. So any partnership work that we can do is a really positive thing. So partnership working with the hospital is a really good initiative. So then that leaves the core team. So on the other side is the cancer care and the community service. And I think when we spoke about this last time, that was an imaginary thing. To launch a service in the middle of COVID was incredibly challenging. But Louisa and the team have done an absolutely brilliant job, and we are now fully up and running and working in partnership again with the hospital, with the cancer services over there. And as people come out of acute care, they now get transferred into and referred into our service, which is called Cancer Care in the Community. And we've got two parts to that service. We have a curative offer, so those people who are living with cancer and getting back into their lives. And then we have the palliative patients that we get a bit earlier in the journey. So they may have just had a palliative diagnosis. They won't hit criteria for falling at home, but they are, and they're probably doing quite well at home. But in terms of what their needs are, they probably sit much more in what therapeutic and wellbeing services do, which is that holistic support, the transition, the support of people into coming into the palliative journey and joining with it earlier. So that's the cancer care and the community team. That service was in therapeutic and wellbeing services, but will be, because I don't know, for those of you that know, I'm moving on myself, and Jackie Meisner will be heading up, leading that service, because it's predominantly a community nursing service, much like WAR. So there's lots of overlaps. So we're left with now what is the core of therapeutic and wellbeing services, and are all the leads here? I think the leads are here, and they're going to introduce themselves in a minute and talk about the roles within their services that we would like to kind of launch today. So we have Jenny. Jenny, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
So Jenny is our lead for therapies, and therapies include occupational therapy, physiotherapy and complementary therapy. And Jenny's joined us, when did you join, Jenny?
Beginning of June.
Beginning of June, yeah. Got lots of experience. You'll get to talk to her later about that she's bringing from Northampton Hospital, and she's bringing that team together to think about how we support our patients and families with therapeutic interventions. We have a physio vacancy at the moment, but you may or may not be aware, and Claire is acutely aware, it's quite difficult to recruit people at the moment. So that post may be vacant for a period of time. So Jenny in the therapies team is going to have volunteer roles that she will talk through in a minute. We have established a social care team. Teresa, you all know Teresa. So Teresa is our lead social worker, and she has. Do you want to introduce your team, Teresa?
I could introduce Linda. Hi everyone. Linda is the adult social worker based at the main site. Linda only joined us in April, and she's a very experienced adult social worker. And then we have there's Dorothy. People also don't know about JJ. JJ has been with the hospice for quite a number of years at different posts, but I was lucky enough to snap her up for social care, the social care assistant, and we won't let her go. And there is another social worker, her name is Jacqueline Mcleod. She has joined us last year in May, initially in IPU, but her main focus is now children and family support. She unfortunately had another commitment this lunchtime. She's joining the presentation this afternoon, and all of you will meet her in due course. And she's a very experienced social worker working with children and family, including safeguarding.
Fabulous, thank you, Teresa. Then we have the what we now call psychology and counselling service. So we're following NICE guidelines as outlined by NICE for cancer and palliative care psychological services. So we follow the model that has been set by NICE, which is the institution that sets our standards. The lead role for that team is a psychologist that is currently vacant. But Charlotte, who you all know, stand up Charlotte, don't be shy. Charlotte is doing a sterling job at managing the service in kind of pathways and referrals, and working with her is Nikki.
Hello.
Nikki's got kind of two hats on. Nikki Jackson. Nikki is a counsellor as well, and she's doing a lot of work on this new kind of programme to kind of reinvigorate and re-engage volunteers into this new structure, as well as we have an assistant psychologist who's not with us today, is leaving because she's pregnant, and we've replaced, we've actually been lucky enough to recruit into that post. So Charlotte will be very happy to have that person in post. And then we can't not talk about Christine and Karina, because without them, none of this really works. They are the oil in the wheels of TW. So we are very, very grateful for them. And the other people at the back, very important, are Lorraine from People Services, who is your main contact from Claire's team, and Lauren. Thank you for coming, Lauren. Lauren is from Practice Development. So we're all involved and have all been talking about how we need to support this and you guys going forward. So that's the structure, and what you'll see is that they are professional. So we used to have, I think previously, historically, we used to call it PAFS, didn't we? Which was Patients and Family Services, which is fundamentally, I suppose, what it does, but it doesn't clearly identify what the task is, what it is we're trying to achieve. And what we're moving towards, what we always was underpinning what we needed to do, was to think about assessing the needs of our patients and our families. And assessment is going to be the thing that drives the way that we operate and the way that we work going forward. So we want to assess people's needs, and one of the tools that we do use for that is something called a holistic needs assessment, or a distress thermometer, which outlines the key areas of holistic needs: spirituality, therapy, so physical kind of rehabilitation needs, your emotional well-being, which is psychology and counselling, your social care needs, your needs as a human being in social networks, and that's where the social care function sits. And then what we're hoping to launch, which we've been incredibly delayed on, is what we're calling a Living Well programme, which is a a modular approach to supporting people's needs based on what they need in these domains. So in these domains now we have professional registered leads in each of them, so social workers, psychologists and counselling, occupational therapies, all on registers, so that we know that we've got good governance and structure running all the way through this team. So it's about being clear about what the task is, and it's about putting that governance structure around what we do, which is why this structure has been put into place. So we're quite confident now that we've got the right structure and we've got the right people in the right jobs. And underneath each one of these areas, we've got key roles, which is what the team leads are going to talk through now. So, Christine, is there one more slide for me? So what does this mean to you? So what it means for you guys is that volunteers have always been and always will be central to what Willan offers. And we want to continue that. But we need to make sure that the volunteer roles sit within these professional structures. So, and those professional structures are the ones that I've outlined there. And the Living Well programme, which is probably like a modern version of Wellbeing. So you won't come in for the whole day, but you come in for different programmes, and we'd have a kind of coffee area and a nice kind of meet and greet place that people could drop into. But it wouldn't be, you wouldn't come in to Wellbeing for the day and stay with us. It would be more interactive and based on what you need as an individual, not what we think a generic offer would be for a general average person, because we're not average, everybody's got different requirements. So I think the next slide is the roles. Is that right, Christine? Yeah. By magic. So do the leads want to come down? They'll introduce yourselves and then they're going to talk about the roles within each area.
Hello everybody. So as Sarah said, I'm quite new in post, so I've been doing a lot of work in trying to figure out, is that better? I've not been in post very long, but I've been trying to do a lot of work on developing the Living Well programme. So Sarah's described it beautifully, so she's kind of put me to the post there, but the aim is that we'll be providing different kinds of sessions, some are educational and some are more activity based on the needs of our patients. So it's putting them at the heart of everything, and they know what they're getting out of all of our sessions. It's going to be very much therapy led. So I've been working very, very hard on that, and hopefully once this is in place and we can get that starting rolling, we'd love to have some volunteers to help us with delivering that. So it'd be really good if we could have people helping us with refreshments, but also supporting our patients to be engaging with these. So for the activity sessions, for example, we've all been there before, where you go in and you feel really nervous and you don't know anybody, and I think sometimes having that welcoming face, guiding somebody in and chatting to them and supporting them, I think is really, really valuable, and having volunteers to support us, I think, will really help. And the other part of what I'm doing is starting getting our groups running again. So before there was a walking group, which is led by Walking for Health. So they're actually leading it, but they link in beautifully with Willan. And they already have some volunteers in place to help with those walking groups. But again, you'll see in your packs there's some information on if you could be interested in helping with those. Again, it's giving people that social support, that comfort that they've got somebody to chat to, they're not on their own. It's more than just kind of going out for a walk, it's being able to chat with somebody and feel that they've got somebody that can support them in so many ways. So we can provide the therapy side of things, but I think that social support and feeling like they belong and that they're special, even if they might be feeling a little nervous and need that little extra push, I think volunteers would fit in beautifully with that. So that's what the therapy from the therapy side of things are. So thank you for listening.
So I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about the role of Bereavement Volunteer, which sits underneath psychology and counselling. And actually I think I've probably got the easiest one, because I know I see a lot of familiar faces here, and I think a lot of you are already volunteering for us in a kind of listening support capacity. So the bereavement volunteer that we're looking for would be somebody who's happy to sit in sometimes quite a difficult space, somebody who's empathic and warm, and we're not asking for anybody with particularly with any counselling skills. We're not asking anybody to offer any counselling interventions, but just for somebody who's happy to be there and listen to somebody talking through the most difficult parts of their bereavement journey. Okay, so at the moment it would all be virtual, so over the phone or on Teams. We'd advise you on the platform, but unfortunately we're not doing this face to face at the moment because it's just safer to do it virtually. But I think that will change. And we will be providing you, as we have been, with the supervision. Okay, so that's really all I've got to say, and I'll hand you over to Teresa.
Hello. Hi. First of all, it's so great to see so many familiar faces coming back. It's really exciting. We've been waiting for that for I think too long. You may have wondered. Oh, Sarah's just
Louder.
You may have wondered why all of a sudden the social care team is not only me, because that was me for a long time. And I think it's in recognition that things have gone much more difficult for patients in the community. So everything around care is much more complex. And I think social care team very much can contribute to make that journey and transition easier. Another reason certainly is that we recognised that families and children are often facing much more complex issues than we recognised in the past, and the pandemic probably has accentuated those issues. But from the work Jackie has been doing since she's joined us, this is very much evident that bereavement or facing bereavement is one area of what people are dealing with, but all the other stuff that has been there maybe before or has been present since also needs attention. And the third thing I think I also want to highlight is that the hospice has certainly recognised that safeguarding, whether it's adults or children, needs to be really put on our daily agenda, because it's a huge risk factor, not only for the people involved, but it's also a huge risk factor for the hospice. And obviously, from all we want to do is, the first thing is we want to do it safe. And that's also, I think, reflected in the different roles we offer now, and in the training. You will see we are going to put together for these roles to be performed in the safest possible way. So within the social care team, you will find a few roles that sound very familiar, because we called them the same before, like a befriended volunteer and a family and young people volunteer, but the actual role will be very different. First of all, at the moment, we are not looking at seeing people in their homes, so we will need to make the most of this beautiful place here. And I know you're going to have a tour later on with Stephen, who's been instrumental to set the well up for us, and you will see the spaces where we can meet people here, whether it's one-to-one or as in a group. The other roles are, there's a driver role, and basically is what it says on the table. We want to have volunteers who are able to provide transport for people who find it really difficult to get to places, and that's something I think at the heart of any sort of social care involvement. You want to make it as accessible as possible. There's also going to be an activity volunteer, and you may wonder what that is, because surely all of you who've been here before, you felt you've been active here, and yes, that is what we expect you to be. But as Sarah highlighted, we are looking at very much individual care plans, individual personalised care, and that requires that we offer a wide range of activities, of groups, of drop-ins, of workshops, of educational programs. And for that, we need activity volunteers who come along with a certain skill, with a knowledge, with a qualification. It may be a yoga teacher, it may be somebody who has an educational background, who can help us to devise educational programs for parents, for carers. It may be people with a health background who can run a workshop for us. How do I relax whilst caring for somebody 24/7? You know, these kind of things we want to set up, and for that we need very specific volunteers. And there's also a role of a social care volunteer, and that's basically somebody who is around to help us with all those activities to be set up, to be somebody who can welcome people, who can draw people, for example, into a group activity, who may find it very difficult because they may live very isolated. That may have been even more difficult for them whilst COVID. We all experienced COVID. So we need people who can actually engage with the public on a variety of levels. At the moment, I'm working with Dorothy and Linda on a working group that is particularly aimed at carers, and that should be first kind of social offer for carers to come here to hopefully do a bit of a walk. We're not asking to go around the whole of the lake, but maybe use that low level. We can assess their needs and put stuff in place that could alleviate whatever pressures they're under. I'm also working with Jackie at the moment on 2 different groups for families, one of which is a group for parents in particular, and that is about giving parents some tools how to talk to their children, how to manage their own emotions, how to deal with the behavior that may have changed since somebody became ill in a family, to offer them activity, to give them some advice, to show them some resources. And the other group we are thinking of at the moment is a joint group where one of us will be working with a parent, but somebody else, maybe me with my hat as non-focused, will be working with the children on activities. So you can see there's quite a lot on, and we can't do all these tasks and these workshops with groups without you guys being there on standby, being there really fulfilling a defined task, being there to help us to engage with people after what it feels like coming out of that pandemic. And that's basically in a nutshell what social care hopefully will be offering soon with your support. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Christine. I don't think I've met any of you before, but I work with Karina's team, so I took over from AD when she was in position, so I'm Therapeutic and Wellbeing Coordinator. So underneath the administrative side, we've got 2 roles, one of them being an IT assistant. So I think a common theme we've seen obviously since COVID is everyone's had to become very much more tech savvy, and some of our patients, maybe some of their families, struggle slightly with that. So a lot of the sessions we offer are Zoom sessions or virtual sessions that they log in for, and what we're finding is maybe just that missing role of someone to go out, help a patient, family, or carer, set up laptop, iPad in their home so that they can quickly access our sessions. The second role we have is a hospitality volunteer. I think one thing Sarah touched upon is as we're sort of moving through the year, we're opening up different rooms in the well to house our group sessions. And Stephen will take you on a tour. You'll see the hub at the front that we've named it will house a lot of those group sessions, and the hospitality role really is like a meet and greet, teas, coffees, and a bit of a gentle listening ear. I think probably most of you are familiar with that kind of role anyway. So, but I think that's the role, probably the 2 that will grow the most as the groups and sessions pick up. That's it from me.
So it's the next slide, which that's the introduction from the teams, and it's sort of the next part of this is which volunteer role is for you. Can you hear me, by the way? No. A bit louder, sorry.
Thank you.
So in these packs, which you will be getting, each lead has written all the different job descriptions, so you've got time to take them away, to have a look and to digest what you think about all the different roles. And what we've asked is I'm going to just there's this declaration of interest form in the pack, so that you can just tick and return to us if you're interested in which roles they might be. We've also sort of said, sorry Christine, but also say please do contact us if you've got questions, if those roles don't look like the roles that you might see yourself in. So it's not that this is the end, that this is defined. I think, as Sarah said, we're evolving. And so please do come back to us and talk to us if it doesn't quite fit where you see yourself with us as a volunteer. Okay, so we've got that. And then the next step is from September. We just go into, this is our governance, and so we've got the mandatory training, which is the online, and our updated policies, the operational policies. So it's coming back into the organisation, and then we're gradually we're offering face-to-face or online foundation training in October, and then that will go into your role specific with your leads, with the team. So we're now sort of, everybody is going to having the same sort of, I would say governance, but it's induction. That's the word for it, into the organisation. We will all know the same thing, so we'll all know where everything is, online. So and then we're going to move on. Because we're nearly there. I think it's any questions, I think is our next. The floor is yours.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah. Looks fine. Yeah. More than that. Well, I can say the same words again if you want. Makes sense to me. I'm fine, yeah. Just put your hand up, I'll say the same words again. That makes sense to me, it's fine.
I think we're really excited because as Claire talked about earlier, it's been a tough old 18 months, so it's really nice to be here, to be in the garden, to be kind of thinking about the future again, obviously with caveats that we can't guarantee what's going to happen. We've learned that if we've learned anything over the last 18 months, but we do have a clearer vision, and we do want to kind of re-engage and get going again. So and as we know, the last time we did training and spent time together was, Karina was kind of, did you say 5 years ago, Karina? It was a long time ago. And we've got a new team, we've got all these new skills to bring in, so I just think it's a really exciting time, and I hope that you're up for the challenge. So but if you've got any questions, maybe it's a bit weird asking them in a marquee, but if you do have any, Peter's here, Claire's here, all the team are here, please do ask us, because we want you to go away very clear about how this process is going to work. But we do have packs for everybody, which they've got your name on. So Karina and Christine will have those out. But we're really lucky. If there aren't any questions, are you sure nobody wants to ask anything?
Presumably the next step is us filling something in. Is it within the pack? Is it sort of application form or something?
Absolutely, yes.
There's a short, that's it. Sorry, Sarah.
Yes.
So it's a tick box, and we put in an envelope to return it to us, an SAE. So it's just, and then that will then indicate to us which roles. But as I say, if there's not roles in the pack, then do talk to us if you see something that doesn't quite fit with you. So it's that, and then from there we go into the 3 stages of sort of the mandatory training, which is the online and the operational policies. And then we've got an October foundation training, which is going to be either face-to-face or online. We're going to offer both. And then we move into the role specific, and that's the competencies. And so we've got these 3
So if we have any queries, do we refer to the person on the management chart, or one of you, or Who do we
all
ask?
of that, I think, is outlined in the pack.
Right.
It will depend what your question is, I suppose.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah.
Some of it, you might want to talk to somebody in social care about the role. You're not quite sure what that means.
Yeah.
You know, we're expecting you to kind of contact us, be clear about what it is that you know the role outlines. So, and you know, we've got ideas in our head. We've got rough structures, but we know that these things are going to shift and change as we get back up and running, and we kind of support the needs of the patients and families that come through. So this will evolve and change in the weeks and months to come.
So have you got people physically coming in at the moment?
We've got lymphedema and complementary therapy are the only services at the moment that are offered
So you're able to
face
just
to face
add in more things as
as we
they're
go.
up and
Absolutely, yeah.